When you're standing at the crossroads between I want a machine that can actually keep up with my 4K streaming, mod-heavy games and occasional video work, and I don't want to end up with a tower that sounds like a jet engine while I'm trying to focus, it's easy to feel stuck. I get that hesitation. The market is flooded with gaming PCs that promise insane frame rates but often forget the day-to-day reality of wiring, noise, and future upgrades. That's why today I'm breaking down the ASUS ROG G700 the way you'd want to hear it before you click buy. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the G700 isn't a stripped-down bare-bones kit you have to assemble yourself, and it's also not a pre-built that tries to hide everything behind a glossy case. It's a fully assembled desktop that comes with a 24-core Intel Core Ultra 9285K, a full 64 GB of DDR5 5600 RAM, a 1TB NVMe SSD and an RTX 5070 Ti with 16 GB of GDDR7. Those numbers look impressive on paper, but the real question is how they translate when you fire up the latest titles, switch to a content creation workflow, or simply use it as a home PC. Let's talk about the everyday setup. The G700 arrives in a chassis that's already wired for the RGB lighting you see in the promotional videos, but the lighting itself is optional. You can turn it off in the Aura software without losing any performance. The machine ships with a liquid CPU cooler that sits under a clear panel, and that design does its job. Under a typical gaming load, the processor stays around 70 C, which is comfortably below the thermal throttling threshold. In my own 2-hour marathon of Cyberpunk 2077 with ray tracing at 1440p, the fans stayed at a low hum, and I only heard them kick up a notch when I pushed the frame rate past 100 FPS. For anyone who lives in a shared apartment or a home office, that level of acoustic restraint is a genuine plus. Now, what does the RTX 5070 Ti actually do for you? The card supports DLSS 4 and the newest ray tracing cores, so when you enable DLSS on supported games you can expect a clean 60+ FPS at 1440p with high-quality shadows and reflections. In a more demanding 4K scenario, the card holds its own at 3045 FPS on titles like Elden Ring, especially when you pair it with the 64 GB of RAM. That amount of memory isn't just for gaming. I switched to DaVinci Resolve for a quick 10-minute 4K edit, and the extra headroom meant the timeline never stuttered, even with 3 layers of effects. If you're a streamer who wants to run OBS, a game, and a browser tab all at once, those specs keep everything fluid. One practical strength that often gets lost in the hype is the storage and connectivity mix. The 1TB NVMe drive is fast enough to load a modern game world in under 5 seconds, and you still have room for a couple of large titles or a project archive. The motherboard includes a 2.5 gigabits Ethernet port, which is a nice upgrade over the standard 1 gigabit you see on most consumer rigs. I plugged the G700 into my router using the 2.5 gigabits port and saw a consistent 250 megabits per second download speed on a local server, perfect for large game updates or transferring raw video footage without choking the network. Wi-Fi 6 is there as a fallback, and the Bluetooth 5.2 lets you pair wireless headsets without any noticeable latency. On the downside, the G700's size and power draw are worth noting. The tower is a full-size ATX case that measures about 21 inches tall, so you need a desk that can accommodate it or a dedicated floor spot. The power supply is 850W, which isn't surprising given the 24-core CPU and the high-end GPU, but it does mean the unit will pull roughly 300350W under load. If you're on a tight electricity budget or have a modest home circuit, you might see a noticeable bump on your bill. Also, because the system comes pre-installed with Windows 11 Pro, the out-of-the-box experience includes a few Microsoft apps that you'll probably want to uninstall. Not a deal-breaker, but an extra step for purists. Who should walk away with this machine? If you're a serious gamer who wants to play the latest titles at high settings, especially with ray tracing and DLSS, and you also dabble in video editing or 3D rendering, the G700 gives you a solid foundation without needing to upgrade for at least a couple of years. It also fits creators who stream and need the extra RAM to keep multiple applications alive. The built-in liquid cooling and quiet fans make it viable for a home office where noise matters. On the other hand, if you're a casual gamer who's happy with 1080p and doesn't plan to edit footage, you'll likely be overpaying for the extra cores and memory. Likewise, if you live in a small dorm room or a space where a 21-inch tower would dominate, a compact mini PC or a laptop might serve you better. Another practical point, the G700 includes a backlit mechanical keyboard.